Walton. So, I'm gonna interview you about the Cold War. So, question number one: what was going on during that time?
Well, during that time of the Cold War, I was a young boy growing up to the age of 18 when the Cold War actually ended in 1991. However, during that time, um, everyday life, normal life, we during my time, we was out going to school, come home from school, you played sports, a lot of outdoor activities. Life is normal, usual. There was nothing major, nothing big, nothing to worry about.
Okay, question number two: how how did it affect you, if it affected you?
Well, the Cold War didn't really affect me because I was born into the Cold War or during the Cold War, so it was normal life for me. I didn't really notice anything or much, any change or anything like that for that matter. Um, so it was nothing to adjust to because that's all I knew.
How did it Number three: how did it affect anyone around you?
Well, as I said, I was young. I didn't realize, I didn't know the difference between Cold War and wartime at that time. There weren't any wartime to be exact. So, we heard about the wars and so forth. World War One, World War Two, things like that. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan from those who were living during those times, but we didn't see any change or anything affecting family members or anyone during that time. So I can't really say I saw any changes or um, anyone being affected from the Cold War. No. For that matter, as a matter of fact, I think to me, everyone that was in that time during the Cold War must have been enjoying it. We had technology coming out, so forth. It was a good time for us, I guess. I would say.
Okay, question number four: was it talked about much during school?
Not specifically the Cold War. It's mentioned in history classes, things like that. But most of what we talked about was previous wars. History, U.S. history, things like that. What occurred in the war, during the wars. What led to the wars and so forth. So as far as the Cold War, what we talked about was trying to stay out of another war, not trying to get into a war. We talked about draft. No one wanted to be drafted, things like that. So during the Cold War, it was great for us because we weren't worried about draft. At To be exact, I myself enlisted. I was Air Force. I'm an Air Force veteran, and so I went in after the Cold War ended for Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and even while I was there, I didn't really see much um, action or anything like that. It was not much fear. Yes, we had incidents, things like that, but it wasn't a major thing for us then. So the Cold War, um, like I said, it was everyday occurrence for us. It was everyday life. We were young. We weren't politicians, so we really didn't worry about anything. The politicians did all the worrying and 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 planning and so forth. We was just young, enjoying the life, enjoying everything that was there, television, technology and so forth.
Okay, can I ask you, it's not one of my questions, but you said draft earlier. What does that mean?
Well, the draft is during times of war, when it wasn't a Cold War, when we did not have enough soldiers for the military to go out and protect the United States. They implemented draft. Anyone that was 18 years of age or older, male, they were automatically he had to sign up for the selective services. So when the draft came around, you had to go, and you had to go train for whichever branch it is that they needed. You normally was the army, and you go fight the war to protect your country. So that's what the draft was to us. I never had to, worry about being drafted, but like I said, I did volunteer my service and joined the military freely, and I loved it. Something that I recommend for every U.S. citizen. I think everyone in the U.S. should be enrolled, just like in China, automatically. It should be something that they have to do at least for 4 years of their life after becoming an adult to really appreciate what freedom is and so forth.
Okay, thank you. The last question. What were or are your thoughts about the Cold War?
Well, my thoughts is the Cold War was necessary. I think it was at a time where every country needed to calm down, need to start communicating, on a different level rather than with guns and bombs. It was a time for countries to, realize that the mistakes that they've made and the consequences, and try to work together to build unions between countries and not wars. It is hard because every country have their own plans and their own agenda. Every person have their own plans, their own agenda. So it is hard to maintain good friendship and economics, stability. But I think the Cold War helped in many ways in the fact that it pushed for new technology. It pushed for educating our youngs, things like that. It was great for at least for our country to have that time to build, to think about the youth, to contribute to our youth, our education, and our technology. And so I thank the Cold War for that, because during war times, technology, most of the technology would be spent in developing new weapons or new form of aviation to fight wars. So Cold War really helped for our youth and our education and our progress in modern technology.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of our interview, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.